This is Movie Division. Today, I am going to recap the action-adventure sci-fi epic movie entitled Dune. Spoilers ahead. Watch out. The movie opens with a girl from a tribe named Freeman narrating the story of Arrakis, a desert with a vital element, and how Outworlders, Harkonnen, oppressed them. Harkonnen ruled Freeman for over 80 years to harvest the most vital substance of the universe, the spice. After long suffering, the Emperor ordered Harkonnens to leave the Freeman, which alarmed Freeman about their next oppressors. The movie proceeds to a boy named Paul, who dreams about the same girl narrating the story, but he is awakened. Paul has breakfast with his mother, who orders him to use Bene Gesserit, a technique to compel someone to follow your commands by using your voice on her. Paul's mother, Jessica, informs him that his father wants to dress ceremonially for the event they are about to have. Paul watches a documentary about Freeman in which he discovers that the Freemen consider the spice to be very sacred and a source of infinite health for them. At the same time, Harkonnens use this spice for their interstellar space, making the spice to be the most valuable element of the universe. It is also stated that the Freemen almost make spice farming impossible by attacking the harvesters, and the Freemen share their dune with giant worms called Shai-Hulud. The scene shifts to Paul's father, the king of the House of Atreides, and welcomes the Herald of Peace and the representatives from all other universe houses. Herald of Peace announces that Emperor wants to hand over Arrakis to the House of Atreides and wants them to serve as its steward. The Duke of the House of Atreides accepts the offer and marks his stamp on the agreement while looking at Paul. Following that, Paul meets one of the best soldiers of House Atreides, Duncan, and shows him his desire to join him on his mission to Arrakis. After being denied by Duncan, Paul informs him about his dream in which he has seen him in company with the Freemen, and in one of his dreams, he has found him dead because he was unable to help. Duncan listens to him but does not allow him to join the mission. Paul meets his father and informs him that he wants to go on a mission to Arrakis with Duncan because this is what he has been trained for. Duke replies that he needs him by his side to control the political affairs because they think Harkonnen will not let them control Arrakis peacefully. Duke adds that they have ruled the air and the sea and now have a chance to rule the dunes. But Paul feels he is meant for this. Duke then reveals to him that he used to feel the same because he wanted to be a pilot and ensures him that he is the future of Atreides. Following that, one of the most loyal soldiers of Atreides, Gurney, meets Paul in his room, informs him about how brutal Harkonnens are, and asks him to give up on insisting on going to Arrakis alone. The scene shifts to the House of Harkonnens, where Rabban meets his king and uncle, Baron, and gets mad at the Emperor for giving Arrakis to Atreides. But Baron informs him this is not a gift for Atreides and asks Rabban to wait. Meanwhile, Jessica wakes Paul while dreaming about the same girl again, leading him to see Dr. Yu. Dr. Yu checks him and guides him to be careful about Reverend Mother, who is waiting for him. Jessica then leads him to Reverend Mother and leaves, asking his son to follow whatever she asks him to do. Reverend Mother uses Bene Gesserit power and makes him kneel before her. She orders Paul to place his hand inside a box, holds a poisoned pin on his cheek, and warns him about the consequences of removing his hand, which is instant death. Reverend Mother watches his dreams and sets him free about getting the required information. She informs him that he could have been killed because of his powers, but he is still alive due to his mother. When asked about the dreams, Paul informs her about the girl he watches in his dreams. Reverend Mother is with Jessica and gets angry at her for wasting such energy on a male because she wanted her to have a girl. Jessica finds that Reverend Mother has found very little hope in her son and starts crying after she leaves, stating that Paul could have died if he was not meant to be the one. Paul listens to their conversation and questions her about what Reverend Mother meant by Paul being the one. Jessica reveals that she controls the political affairs of the Imperial Kingdom from the shadows and informs him that they have been waiting for a man who can see the future and past to bridge the gap between both. She also informs him that his dreams can be visions from the future and alerts him that most of their rivals believe he is the one. In the next scene, Paul arrives in Arrakis with his parents and meets his father's friend Thufir Await. Thufir welcomes his king and informs him that they have taken control of the whole Arrakis, while some of their soldiers are clearing the rough areas. On his way to his thopter, Freemen spot Paul and start calling him Lizan al-Gaib. After getting inside the thopter, Jessica informs him that the Freemen have been waiting for centuries for Lizan al-Gaib, and they've found hope after seeing him. But Paul does not believe her. Thufir then takes them to where they will stay, and on their way, he guides them about the Worms area and Freeman's lifestyle. Duke and Gunry inspect the area and doubt the silence they find in the dunes in their working site. They are then asked to move inside as the temperature is about to rise. On the other hand, Jessica selects a woman named Shadi-Out as her servant. Shadi-Out offers her considering her to be the mother of Lizan al-Gaib and discloses that the knife is made from the tooth of Shai-Hulud. In the following scene, Paul is watching a documentary about Freeman's pattern to avoid being attacked by the worms. Suddenly, he notices a hunter-seeker advice, which enters his room as a fly, and when it tries to attack him, Paul captures it with bare hands and crushes it. Thufir feels like failing in protecting his king and Paul and decides to resign from his job. But Duke orders him to find the spies instead of being ashamed of what has happened. Thufir and his men find the dead Harkonnen and report that he has been here for a few days spying on them. Meanwhile, Reverend Mother meets Baron and informs him that the Emperor has decided to favor them by sending his Sardaukar soldiers to help him. She informs him that he can kill Duke, but his wife and her son are under their protection, and Baron promises her not to harm Jessica and Paul. After Reverend Mother leaves, Baron tells his man that he will not kill them, but his desert will kill them, which means that he has also planned to kill them. Duke conducts a conference in which he discovers that the machines Harkonnens have left for them will take a lot of their time to get the production. Harkonnens we're getting. Duke announces that he will visit every harvesting farm himself to check the progress, and when Thufir is guiding them about the farms and Dr. Kynes, who has spent more than 20 years, Duncan arrives and is welcomed by everyone. Duncan then shares his experience of his time with Freeman, reveals that they are the best fighters, and informs his king about their Seekis. Duncan brings one of the Freeman's leaders, named Stilgar, who talks to the king arrogantly. Duke manages to impress him by ensuring that he is here to protect Arrakis and get the spice, while Freeman can own their sieges but will visit them if Duke demands. Stilgar leaves, rejecting their offer to stay with them, but he gets impressed by what Duke has told them. After that, Duke visits a harvester with his group, but they notice a Shai-Hulud moving toward the harvester. Duke orders to call a carryall to pick up the harvester, but the carryall fails to pick up the harvester due to its one faulty arm. Duke comes to know about a crew of 21 workers inside the harvester and decides to save them with the help of his Thopters. Duke orders Paul to direct the crew members to the Thopters, and as Paul gets down, he starts getting visuals again due to spice, and is left on the ground when Shai-Hulud approaches. Gray reaches there and saves him from there. After they land in a safe place, Duke gets angry at Paul for not being careful and talks to Kynes about being set up to be killed by the Emperor. But she denies helping him, stating she has seen many men like him coming and going. Dr. Yu checks up on Paul, informs Jessica about his well-being, and states that it may be a reaction to spice because it is psychoactive material. After Dr. Yu departs, Paul tells his mother that he had a vision with his open eyes in which he has seen his death, and shocks Jessica by disclosing the news of her being pregnant. Jessica meets her husband, who is concerned about his son and states that Paul was fine before he met Reverend Mother. Duke explains to Jessica that he has never doubted her, but now he takes a promise from her to protect their son. When everyone sleeps at night, the security guards are killed by a mysterious man, and Duke awakens from his sleep. He notices a light on the wall, and as he reaches outside to inspect what is going on, Dr. Yu attacks him with a tranquilizer which causes Duke to paralyze. Meanwhile, one of the soldiers informs Gunray that they have been assailed, and as he comes out, he finds that they have been surrounded by the Harkonnens' army, who attacked them with heavy weapons. Gurney orders everyone to counterattack, but Sardukas arrives and kills every Atreides soldier, including Gurney. On the other side, Dr. Yu apologizes to his king for bargaining with Byron to save his wife in return for his life. Dr. Yu takes off his ring and says he can do anything for Paul. Dr. Yu then places poison under Duke's teeth and informs him that he manages to get closer to Baron, he can kill him by crushing and poisoning the air. But the moment he crushes the poison, he will also breathe his last breath. At the same time, Duncan encounters Sardukars and kills 3 of them. After that, he reaches Paul's room and finds him missing. Duncan attacks Harkonnens, manages to steal one of their Thopters, and escapes when Harkonnens destroys the whole city. Paul opens his eyes and finds himself bound on a Thopter next to his mother, and Harkonnens are talking about killing them by throwing them out of the Thopter so that he may eat the worms. Despite being abided by his mother, Paul uses Ben Gesserit to control one of the Harkonnen, but fails. As one of them approaches him to throw him out of the Thopter, Paul manages to control and sets his mother free, who kills both of the Harkonnens, and they safely land. After landing, they witness the destruction of Atreides. In the next scene, Duke Leto is presented in front of Baron, who kills Dr. Yu after he demands his wife's freedom. As Baron returns to Duke, he manages to use the poison given by Dr. Yu and dies thereafter, poisoning Baron and his men inside the room. Duncan meets Kynes and informs her about how Emperor has betrayed them, but she discloses that she is not meant to say or hear anything. Jessica and Paul spend the night inside a camp where they discover Duke Leto's death, and Paul finds his ring. After a while, Paul acknowledges the presence of spice inside their camp and gets afraid after having visions about the future war in the name of his father and Paul himself. Jessica tries to calm him, but he blames her for his condition. After Paul gets normal and they get out of the camp, Duncan finds them and gets them inside his Thopter. Duncan informs them about Sardukar's battalions, and Paul concludes that Emperor has chosen his side and is favoring Harkonnens. Jessica tries to talk to Kynes, who is helping them. Still, she refuses to provide any information to them. Kynes then leads them to an old ecological testing station and orders her men to do their jobs. She hides them from the storm, but Paul asks her to testify in their favor about how they have been betrayed, but Kynes makes him realize that he is still hiding in the ground. Paul claims to be the one who can change the fate of Freeman after he divulges details about her past, that her lover died in the war, and informs her that he has dreamt about her. During this, Sardukars arrive and kill the guards. Despite being stopped by Paul, Duncan sacrifices himself to protect them and gets killed. Paul, Jessica, and Kynes escape from there, and Kynes gets separated from them after guiding them about the Thopter waiting for them. Paul and Jessica find the Thopter and leave the ecological station while Kynes gets attacked by Sardukars in her attempt to mount a Shai-Hulud. As Sardukar gets closer to killing Kynes, she starts tapping on the ground, due to which Shai-Hulud engulfs them all. 2 Sardukar Thopters start following Paul and Jessica, but Paul enters the Thopter inside the storm. Rabban finds his uncle, Baron, healing from the poison and declares Paul and Jessica dead, stating that they have pushed them into a storm. Paul manages to save the Thopter during the storm and crash lands it on a dune. He He asks his mother to run and get on the rock. After they reach the rock, the duo puts on their still suits, and as they continue their journey onwards, Paul guides his mother to follow the patterns he makes to avoid being detected by the Shai-Hulud, and uses the pre-compass given by Duncan to indicate the direction. Unfortunately, they are followed by a Shai-Hulud, but they manage to get on a rock before it could harm them. As they continue moving onward, Paul gets the visions and stops his mother after sensing someone's presence there. Suddenly, many Freemen surround them, and Paul manages to identify Stilgar. Stilgar informs his men about Paul that he is the one expected to be Lisan al-Gaib, but no one believes him after looking at Paul. Stilgar saves Paul, but he doubts Jessica and states that the boy is young and can learn their ways quickly while Jessica is too old to learn. As Stilgar attacks Jessica, she overpowers him and holds a knife at his neck while Paul beats the rest of the men and holds a gun at them. After a while, China appears there, the same girl Paul has been dreaming about. Stilgar realizes his mistake of judging her too soon and gives her words to protect them. As they start moving toward their siege, a man named Jameis wants to lead the group and challenges Jessica. Paul accepts his challenge as Jessica's champion, and they both get ready to compete with each other. Before the competition starts, Paul visualizes his death and remembers Jameis's moves. Chani comes closer to him and informs him that Jameis is a good fighter, he will not make him suffer. She gives him the same knife Paul has set in his dreams and says that she wants him to die with honor while holding this knife. The fight begins, and Paul easily overpowers Jameis every time he attacks and gives him chances to accept his defeat, but only death results from Amtal. Paul accepts the situation and kills Jameis while he visualizes that Kawasat's Haderach inside him has awakened, making him kill Jameis. After Jameis dies, Stilgar and his men welcome Paul and announce the duo as one of them. Paul informs them that he has seen the future in the desert, and they will come with him if they keep them, because his father was here for Freeman's strength, not for spice or riches. Stilgar and his men lead the duo to their siege, where they spot one of Freeman riding Shai-Hulud, the dangerous desert worm. They enjoy looking at the man while China informs them it is only the beginning for them and the movie ends here. If you enjoyed the recap, leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on the bell notification and comment down your favorite part of the movie. Thanks for watching.